Hello, friends. We're back again. It's Fightful Overbooked. Your weekend starts now. Happy New Year. We're a little late, but you know what? We only talk to each other like once a week, maybe, Jeremy. So Happy New Year. How you doing?
Once a week, too many, Joel Pearl.
Tell me about it.
Happy New Year, buddy.
How was your New Year, buddy?
No, did nothing. Felt like any other day. Every day is just another day.
You have the rest of the lyrics to that or no?
I didn't realize there was a song. I thought I made that up on the spot.
Everything's a song if you try.
Sure. I'm not a musician. You are. You're the one who, unfortunately, that's how this whole thing between you and I started, is you were a musician and I got myself into something that I now can't get myself out of.
Sounds like a you problem then.
I fired you.
Oh, yeah, that's an option that we have, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need no cut clauses on our Fightful contracts.
Good luck with that. You're more famous on Fightful than I am at this point. We have a commercial that, despite doing everything for the website, no one knows that I exist in this commercial.
The only reason I have any sort of exposure on this commercial, for the record, is because I had lunch with the video editor twice, and I'm his only other point of reference who isn't Jimmy or Sean.
I think the only reason is you had your interview with Diener go up yesterday, and they clearly just did the commercial yesterday with whatever was on the website at that moment, and you were there. So I was nowhere to be seen, even though my name is most prominent. No one reads the bylines anyway, and my name is most prominent on the website, but no one knows I work for this website. They don't think it's just Sean anyway, so he does everything.
It's a good interview, though, right?
The Diener one?
Yeah.
I didn't watch it.
Anyway, 5 stories. You know how this works. Jeremy wrote some stuff I read, some stuff I didn't. It either flew past your newsfeed or it stuck on by. And judging by the end of this week's news cycle, a lot of this stuff probably is out of your brains. We're not going to talk about what the main story is right now because that's depressing and we have more fun to talk about. Jeremy, are you ready to go through the 5?
What's the main story of the week? Is it Dax's broken ass?
Yeah, that's the one. I can't believe he was cleared despite having a broken ass. But it's Mexico, so I kind of get it.
You can wrestle on a broken ass. My favorite part of that story, and this isn't even one of the things, is he's like, yeah, they wouldn't let me go to Mexico to wrestle. He wrestled for AEW a week after the Briscoes match. It's like, yeah, but you can't go to Mexico and wrestle. You can wrestle for us. Don't go down there.
We're not going to get into the medical practices of AEW, good or bad. But yeah, Dax's broken ass. Sometimes things are better left unsaid.
But that podcast is great. Shout out to Matt Goon, who I think is trying to snake my Bryan Danielson podcast right now. I'm pushing for this, Joel Pearl. I'm pushing for this Danielson podcast. I got to stop doing podcasts with you and start doing podcasts with Bryan Danielson.
TK, since you're watching, give the Danielson podcast to Jeremy. I don't need to be here. I have other shows I can work on.
He won't give me a Danielson shirt. I definitely ain't getting a podcast.
I'm hoping for you. I am here to manifest for you.
Thanks. I need all the support I can get.
Well, you got mine. And I'm sure in the comments with the thumbs up and all the rest, you'll have the support of others. So drop a comment saying you support Jeremy Lambert, would you? It's a good way to show your support for Fightful Overbooked here. Let's start. Let's go with number 5. Lana, whose real name is CJ Perry, says she would shut down cjperry.com to return to WWE. Lana has certainly had quite a lot to say lately about WWE, about Mandy Rose and the situation there, and she appeared on the Bailey Show to talk about her brand army, as she calls it. That's what it's called. It's brand army, and her page on cjperry.com. Talk to me about this. Always one to be in the spotlight, Miss CJ Perry.
The Bailey Show, by the way, is not WWE's Bailey. It is not Jarrett Bailey. It is just the Bailey Show. I have actually forgot the person's first name. I apologize to that. Yeah, Lana rules. I just want to put that out there. She's great. She's a great interview. She says some very fun stuff. She's not afraid to just speak. She's not afraid to just give me an easy headline. I always appreciate that. Anybody that's not afraid to give me an easy headline. And she was asked about the Mandy Rose stuff of hey, what do you think about Mandy Rose being asked to shut this down or getting fired because she wouldn't shut this down, or the kind of content she puts out there and everything. She's like, I have a lot of success. Can't speak. With CJ Perry.
She has the other thing too, but it's not with herself. Usually with her husband.
I have success. Jesus.
Say it with me now. Success. There it is. Now maybe don't put the emphasis on the first syllable.
This is why the kids send me to preschool. I make a lot of money with CJPerry.com, and she said that I've made more in like the last 6 months than I did my best WWE year. And she's like, but you know what? I'd still shut that down if they asked to return to WWE because she loves this business. I appreciated her comments on this because you hear a lot of stuff after Mandy Rose of like, well, these women can, make plenty of money outside of WWE. What do they need to shut this stuff down for? Because they can just make more than they make in WWE with this kind of stuff. Lana has had proven money-making ability. I won't try that word again. Proven money-making ability with her website. She hasn't done, she's done like minor movies and reality television stuff. She hasn't done anything wrestling related since leaving WWE, but she's still been profitable thanks to CJPerry.com. And she's like, yeah, you know what? If they asked me to shut this thing down, I would do it. So it was cool to hear Lana's take on this. Easy headline article, easy article just to do. Cause of course people are like, oh, she's taking shots at AEW. Cause she did take shots at AEW later on in the interview. She's bootlicking and all of this stuff. Why would she do this and whatnot? It's like, maybe she just likes wrestling, guys. Maybe she's just like, you know what? I'm doing well with this thing, but I just want to come back and wrestle, want to manage, want to have fun, be sports entertaining everybody, put smiles on faces, as I believe she said. Maybe she just wants to do that. The money's there for her. Let her, if she wants to go back to WWE and she's like, wants to shut her down her website, I don't feel like it's bootlicking. I feel like just what she wants to do. Let her do it. Lana's great though. Shout out to Lana. Always a great interview. I don't listen to all of them because she does a lot. And a lot of times it is very just focused on like entertainment stuff and reality television because she's on like this real life. And I'm like, sure, whatever. But I listened to this one and it was very fun. And I feel like every time I listen to a Lana interview, she says something good or bad. I don't really care if it's good or bad. I'm in the business of news and I'm trying to make news out of stuff. And she gives me something to make news out of.
A couple of things. First of all, Jason Bailey is the name of the podcaster.
Okay, thank you.
Not to be confused with the Jason Bailey that I went to high school with and later would have a tryout with the Anaheim Mighty Ducks and not make the team. So it's a different Jason Bailey. It's not that one. And also the I like the idea that she's like, yeah, I would shut down the website, but that doesn't mean that like when she leaves, she's not going to make a shit ton of money reopening it because guess what WWE provides? And that is a giant platform for you to make more content on your own after you decide to say goodbye or they say goodbye for you. That being said, you know what? Listen, make your money however you want. And if you are happy taking bumps, go for it. Not everyone has the same visions in life. Not everyone has the same aspirations.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, you're gonna get a big platform if you're going to WWE. And look, Mandy Rose, she's making her money. Good on her. The money probably would not be as good if she wasn't on NXT television and the NXT Women's Champion for over a year and everything. That's just the reality of the situation. How many people have lost? How many people have left WWE and everything? And like were NXT, but they weren't on NXT and opened like an OnlyFans and stuff, but they ain't doing as well as Mandy Rose is doing.
That's right. There's so many accounts of people who were recently released and then they decided to go into that content business, and it's tough, man. It's a slog, and we know it. And we're not, we're not doing anything sexy in our content. We're talking about the news, Jeremy.
Yes, we are.
That's what we do. That's our OnlyFans. We're gonna call this Only News. .com. Let's move on. Number 4, Konnan said Tony Khan pulled Melo from the AAA show because someone else got COVID. Keeping It 100 is the podcast that Konnan does with the whole bevy of other people, some or whatever. And he had this to say about the Melo and Sammy Guevara situation. they didn't go to Mexico. This is not what he said, but they didn't end up going to Mexico for the Acapulco show to defend their intergender AAA tag titles. Instead, they were stripped of them, and now they're doing a different match for those tag titles. Talk to me about it, because this is a bit of a messy situation. The intergender tag team champions did not make their defenses for AAA.
For true. What was that?
AAA, that's the name of the company. AAA.
Oh,
and
sure.
You gotta call them Black Taurus. You gotta do the whole thing. Denise Salcedo taught me well. It's Triple Mania. Not Triple Mania.
So keeping it 100. Yes, it's a podcast. We don't need to get into who is actually on this podcast, but I do appreciate Konnan's insight on things, because he is still actively involved in the business. And he's actually working with these companies like AEW and potentially now WWE, if the Dragon Lee thing is any indication. So yeah, he explained the situation. He said that, they'd missed some other events. One was just, I think, a scheduling conflict. One was Ty couldn't get her visa paperwork in line. And then this one was, I guess, somebody else got COVID in AEW and they needed to do a match on Dynamite, and what they did was Ty J against, I believe this was Willow and Ruby, was the same night as the AAA show. And then Konnan was wondering, well, why didn't you send Sammy? Sammy wasn't doing anything, which kind of a fair point. But I guess, like, why are you going to send Sammy to defend the titles if Ty isn't there? So I can understand why would we send Sammy if we can't also send Ty? I also understand Konnan's point of, well, why couldn't you just book another match instead of this? Why couldn't you do it just Anna Jay against Ruby Soho or Anna against Willow? Like, was it that important to do this tag team match on this night? I understand Konnan's frustrations with this, because they had this scheduled. It turned out that something else happened. I don't like, this is Konnan's side of the story, right? We get back to sides of the story like we did last week. We got Konnan's side of the story. What's the WWE or AEW side of the story? What's Tony Khan's reasoning for this? Will we ever find out? I don't know. I don't know if anybody's going to ever ask Tony about this, because at this point it's a dead story. Let's be honest. This happened a week ago, and this is not the number one question on everybody's mind. If they get a Tony Khan interview, they got to ask him about the new set first. So I don't think we're like really ever going to get Tony's side of the story. Right now we have Konnan's, and I don't think it makes AEW look too great when it comes to this. But do they care? I don't know. Because again, it's like, yeah, okay, we didn't send them to AAA. They stripped out of the titles. They crowned new champions. We move on with our life.
You know what they should have done? Sammy should have gone to Acapulco, and he said, Ty can't make it, but I have another tag team partner. And out comes Taya, and it's still Sammy and Ty, yeah. And they defend the tag titles. That would have worked. That would have been
Sure.
fine. In the last Triple Mania show, and now I can't say it, they teamed up with Johnny and Taya. And it worked. Johnny Caballero.
Yeah. I'm fine with this. This sounds very good.
Could have done that, but instead we're just going to strip them of the tag titles and move on. Whatever, man. It's wrestling. Everything happens, and nothing really matters. Let's move on. Number 3, Exodus Prime says he found out he was wrestling Wardlow on AEW Rampage 20 minutes before the match. Talking to Toned and Entertainment, Exodus Prime, who has one of the coolest and nerdiest names in wrestling ever, has been pretty active in AEW. He's had a couple of experiences with Rampage, and then he was on Dynamite the following week. Talk to me about this conversation he had with Toned In Entertainment.
So yeah, Exodus Prime had been on AEW TV a couple of times. He faced Hook and he faced Wardlow, and yes, he does have a cool name. He talked about his nerdiness on this podcast. It was a really fun podcast, and I love the podcast where you get these independent wrestlers or these people who just did AEW shots and stuff, and you learn more about them. So those are really fun to listen to. And if you are a comic book fan, a gaming fan, and you don't know much about Exodus Prime, go check it out. I think you'll learn some interesting stuff about him, and you'll get to just know him more after seeing him a couple times on AEW TV. And this goes to show, so we had Dan the Dad on our podcast, the Spotlight, and he talked about how he found out that he was wrestling AW Dark like very quickly. He was just in catering, like, hey, we need you down here. And he's like, oh, okay. And he goes down there. And now Exodus Prime is talking of like, 20 minutes before the match, they're just like, hey, you're wrestling Wardlow. It's like, okay. So it seems like you show up, maybe you get something to do, maybe you don't. It seems like more often than not, these people get something to do, whether it's a dark shot, whether it's being used as an enhancement talent on WWE television or AW Dynamite or whatever. But he does that the more, and I couldn't put this in the headline because I just didn't have enough space. But the power bomb was very gifable. The way he sold it, like almost standing on his head for a brief moment and then flipping over, people like, oh man, like the way he took that power bomb. And I think the way he took that power bomb ended up getting him that second match against Hook because of his selling there. And he said, yeah, that was just completely by accident. Like I was just trying to roll over on it and I just ended up doing a complete headstand, and then that's how I got pinned out of it. Like that's the bump I ended up taking. He's like, I got to the back and everyone's like, oh, that was so great. That was so great. He's like, yeah, definitely meant to do that. He's like, no, that was completely by accident. So if you want to learn more about Exodus Prime, if you want to learn more about how I guess AEW enhancement bookings work, and you want to learn more about how he took this power bomb completely by accident, check out the interview and shout out Exodus Prime. He's seems like a nice guy. Does a lot of independent work in the Texas area, and yeah, good stories with him on that podcast.
Independent wrestlers learn how to sell, learn facials, and you will more than likely get booked again. It's pretty. It's 100%. It's a task, but if you do it well, then you obviously get looked at. And Exodus Prime is a pretty good example of successfully selling your way into more bookings. I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Number 2, Lee Johnson says he couldn't hear Arn Anderson's Glock promo. Lee Johnson appeared on the AEW Unrestricted podcast. I listened to it the other day. I must have tuned out. I didn't hear this story as told by Lee Johnson on the podcast. So go ahead, fill me in, fill everyone else in at home about Lee Johnson on Unrestricted.
It was near the end of the podcast, and I would like to say that AEW, all right, I'm not going to bury AEW Unrestricted, but AEW sends out their little emails with their quotes, right? For the Unrestricted podcast. Like, hey, we're happy to have Lee Johnson. And then you get about 5 paragraphs of what Lee Johnson has accomplished in AEW and stuff. And then it says, Lee Johnson quotes on working with QT Marshall. I really think QT is the guy that made me a great wrestler for TV. He really helped me out with that a lot. On Sting fandom, I remember when I was young, maybe 6 or 7 years old. Do you remember those fake tattoos? I would get these Sting tattoos and I would put them on my body. Those are the quotes they send out to get you hype for this Lee Johnson interview. Why? Why go through this effort, AEW? Why go through it? Joel Pearl, stop. Why go through this effort of sending out these quotes when you're just going to give one line of cliche? Like, if you read this, you would never want to listen to this podcast. You would be like, okay, these are just dumb answers, very cliche answers. It's annoying to me. As someone who does this for a living, it honestly upsets me that they put this little effort into sending out these quotes to try to get you hyped for this podcast. I would never listen to these podcasts if I didn't have to, based on these emails that they send out. And this is why I want this job of transcribing the AEW Unrestricted podcast, and I'll send out these quotes because I'll send out things like Lee Johnson couldn't hear the Glock promo because and that's why he had that look on his face that ended up becoming a meme. That was going to be a meme anyway, but Lee Johnson's reaction, tag yourself. Who are you? Arn, Cody, Brandy, Lee, the crowd, whatever it might be. And he has that confused look on his face of like, oh man, what is this man saying? And it's because he couldn't hear the promo. I thought it was a great story by Lee Johnson. Listen to the full podcast. He actually gives you better answers than QT taught me a lot. He's your trainer. I would hope he teaches you a lot.
You definitely learned a lot from QT Marshall. That's
QT rules. Are we burying QT? He's awesome.
No, absolutely not. I'm agreeing with you. He should have learned, and he did learn a lot from QT. And then when he's asked like, who's the best member of the Nightmare Factory? He's like, I am. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. He's like, sometimes you got to put yourself over. And I was just, all right, this is perfect. I like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lee Johnson talking about the promo. It's something that it's comedic enough and it's funny enough that like, it was something that they could have put out as a quote, or at least added it to the reasons to listen. and like in the selling of the podcast, this is what we're talking about. But I hear you. Sometimes the quotes are just very benign and just they exist. They're not entertaining. Like they're not captivating.
None of their quotes are. I get these emails every week, and it's always just one sentence of the most generic quotes you could find. Like none of it's good. And we talked last week of, Matt Cohn sends me the Dax podcast early, and the CM Punk stuff that blew up. Everyone is like, I gotta watch this, or I gotta listen to this now. I gotta listen to this. I gotta listen to this. And a big chunk, like, look, people are gonna listen anyway because the subject was CM Punk, and that's just what it's gonna be. But yeah. Matt even thanked me of like, wow, the interest of this like is even more than it was because you put these quotes out there. It's like if you can put quotes out there that are compelling and interesting, people are going to be like, oh, it's like a good movie trailer, right? You see a great movie trailer. It's like, oh, now I want to see this movie. Maybe you gave away everything in the movie trailer. I don't know, but you want to have just interest so people go and actually listen to your podcast or go and watch your movie and stuff. If you just put out something like, imagine a movie, it's the Star Wars movie trailer, and the only thing you see is just a guy standing there just doing nothing. Like, you're not going to go see this movie. You need the fighting. You need the lightsabers. You need the lasers and shit.
Yeah.
I don't like Star Wars.
No, but I get what your point. I get your point entirely. You got to make it sexy. You got to make it captivating. Otherwise, it's just a guy talking into a microphone with another guy or girl or not. I don't know. Or to themselves. Sometimes it's just themselves. Either way, this was entertaining. I'm glad you found something more entertaining than the quotes sent by AEW.
Send better quotes, AEW, and if you want to send better quotes, hire me, and I'll listen to the podcast, and I'll make sure good quotes get out there.
Once again, I will put over the AEW website for their results. They're very detailed. This could be better. I didn't know that this is how they sent out their quotes because I'm not on that list.
Oh, you know what, Joel? Here's a fun little media exercise. So this was the Lee Johnson podcast. We just talked about that. Are we
doing your Jeremy Lambert news writing tips thing?
We can.
Hold on. I got you this time.
Oh. Well, that's
that.
There we go. Yeah.
I like the part where it went off prematurely and then came back around.
So, quotes from Willow Nightingale. Working with Riho, I really love the dynamic of big and small, like the giant and the tiny person. And I think we both have this very cutesy demeanor to us. But then the part where we differ is our wrestling styles. On Dalton Castle, I think Dalton Castle is the most entertaining, like the most charismatic person, and I feel like we would mesh really well together. Great quotes from Willow Nightingale. Soraya, here we go. Soraya's a quote machine, right? Like, come on.
Yeah, and she's arguably a bigger star than really anyone that they have on the podcast recently.
On her relationship with Renee Paquette and Jon Moxley, we're like all bouncing ideas off of each other, and she comes up with such good lines for my promo and for backstage. It's like a whole unit. On hiding out in a tech closet before her AEW Dynamite debut, there was no toilet in there, no AC in there, no mirrors. I was just like sweating, but I was like, it's going to be so worth it. Those are your
awful.
Tony Khan.
You're watching the show. We know it.
So these are your quotes from Tony Khan ahead of Full Gear. On MJF challenging Jon Moxley, we've seen MJF involved in a lot of great matches. He's come so close to the top of the mountain, but right now he's up against the ultimate mountain in pro wrestling. I think Jon Moxley is the tallest and most impossible to climb. I just hit the microphone. On Chris Jericho defending the ROH World Championship, you have to give him credit now. He's in his 8th reign as world champion, doing some of the best wrestling in his entire career right now in 2022. Those are your Tony Khan quotes. These quotes are not good. They're not good.
Who's picking them? I would like to know who's picking them from what department. And I mean, I'm going to assume that Tony has no say in not no say, but I'm assuming he doesn't know. He's not going out of his way to read the quotes before they're sent out to media about wrestler X talking about whatever on the podcast. I would love to know who's making those decisions because they ain't great.
It's not.
Anyway, be better. AEW.
Hire me. AEW. Hire me.
Hire Jeremy. There you go. Support Jeremy Lambert. How we do that?
Give me the monies.
AEW. Let's go. Number one.
Give me all the monies.
Well, we'll do that. We'll grow this channel and we'll get all the monies to you.
That'd be nice.
All right. We'll do thumbs up for now. People can leave that thing. Orange Cassidy, number 1. Orange Cassidy. I'm just good at punching. That's why I have the AEW All Atlantic Championship. Orange Cassidy appeared on Bill Apter's Wrestle Binge show. It's not really a podcast. It is kind of a face-to-face thing. He's very verbose. Orange Cassidy. Talk to me about this appearance. I'm sure Bill absolutely reveled in Orange Cassidy's interview skills.
Bill Apter's been around a long time. He's seen it all. Like he knows what he's doing here, especially somebody like Orange Cassidy who's in just complete gimmick and everything. Bill Apter is great. Orange Cassidy, he rules. Just the way he just stays in gimmick, right? Like he stays in gimmick and he's just going to give you these 1-word answers and everything. And he has a nice banter with Apter because they're actually talking about MJF, and Orange Cassidy's like, he's good at like sarcasm. And Bill Apter's just like, well, sarcasm doesn't keep the title. Like that doesn't mean you get to keep the title forever. And Orange Cassidy's just like, it doesn't? And he's like, well, you have the title. It's not all sarcasm, is it? And he's like, this title? Like, yeah, that's how. He's like, I just have this title because I'm just good at punching people in the face. It's like, well, you got to be better than just punching people in the face. It's like, nope, just punching people in the face. And Apter's like putting over his drop kick and everything. He's like, you do that with your hands in your pockets and everything. And Orange Cassidy's like, yeah. It's very funny. Like any interview with Orange Cassidy, and I've seen a few up close, like you know what you're getting with the gimmick, but it's very fun. Like he's going to be Orange Cassidy. And if you know how to play off of that, or if you're not, or if you're willing to play off of that, it can be fun. And this is just a fun little, it's like 8 minutes or something, a fun little interview. He actually has a line that I think I'm going to run this weekend, like beating Bryan Danielson. And it's legitimate. Just like, I'd punch him in the face and pin him. There's nothing to it, but it's just an easy little headline pop that I can do. And I'm going to end up doing it. More Orange Cassidy interviews. I'll always find something to run out of Orange Cassidy. He rules.
Do you have any comment to MJF?
Okay.
Okay, indeed. We did it. We ran through the gauntlet. We got through it. Let's plug the stuff and get on out of here and enjoy our Saturdays. Jeremy, do the thing.
Don't follow me on Twitter. Follow Steven Jensen on Twitter at @FightTalk_. Keep it locked here on Fightful Overbooked. We have fun stuff coming up. I hope. I don't really know. People just say they're going to do stuff on this channel and then they do it. And I'm just like, sure. I don't know anything that's happening.
I'm working on a new show.
You're working on what?
I'm working on a new show.
Oh boy, that sounds awful. All right. I think we're doing like watch alongs again, which is great because I know the Wrestle Kingdom watch along did very well. Shout out to again Kate, who messages me like 5 minutes before and was like, hey, we're gonna do this. And shout out to Rob Wilkins, who messaged me 10 minutes before and was like, hey, we're gonna do this. I'm like, sure, whatever.
So, hold on, I'm gonna go behind the curtain for a sec. They messaged me too.
What? Why are they messaging you?
Because the watch along was my project for the longest time. And I brought it back just before Survivor Series this past year, and I said like let's keep them going, and now we probably will, like you said. Wrestle Kingdom was one that I started when Sean was doing it to monetize scraps.
Yeah, we did that last year. I distinctly remember that.
Yeah, and then we kept doing it, and so the scraps thing that was 2019 or 2020 or 2020. I think 2020. That. Yeah, so we did the 2020 Wrestle Kingdom, and then we did it the 2 years after that. And then this year they were like, you want to do it? And I said, things have changed. I don't think I'm going to stay up. And I didn't. Plus I had a shitty day, just peek behind that curtain. But anyway, long story short, they did it. And that was after Rob had approached me and been like, if you're not going to do it, I'll do it. And I said, it's all yours. Go ahead and do it. They set it up. And then same thing with Kate. Kate in the like Friday night in the middle of SmackDown was like, I think I'm going to do da-da-da-da-da. I was like, okay. Or sorry, was it Friday? No, it was Wednesday.
Friday.
It was Wednesday. No, it was Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday. Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Tuesday night. It was
Tuesday
like
night,
after Sour Graps, I'm going to do this watch along. You want to do it? And I'm like, I'm going to bed after NXT because today is just the day that it was. Because I'm also an old man. So she ended up doing it. That was a very last minute thing. I figured she would have pitched it to you afterwards because she said, do you want to do it with me? And I said,
no, here's how I found out about this. So I'm checking the StreamYard and I don't even remember why. I was just checking the StreamYard. StreamYard, and I see that the NXT post show is set up to run on Overbooked, and I'm like, oh, did somebody just like misclick something? So I message her and I'm just like, hey, did you set up the NXT post show? And she's like, yes, hear me out. And I'm like, oh God, what is happening now? And she's like, I have this idea to do this watch along. I've talked to Sean. He said it's fine. Like, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I don't care. I just want to know, did you misclick on the NXT post show? Because you have it checked to run on Overbooked. And I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to run on Overbooked. And she's like, oh yeah, I just misclicked that. I was like, all right, cool. Do what you want with the watch along of the Bayley and the Sasha match. I was like, just be done by this time, because apparently we're also doing a Wrestle Kingdom watch along that starts at this time. So I don't want two streams running. She's like, okay, gotcha. I don't know anything, Joel. Nobody tells me anything. People don't even come to me anymore. Apparently, they go to Sean to get stuff approved, or they go to you. They don't even come to me. I'm going to start taking all the money for myself from now on, because I'm tired of handing it to everybody else. I'm taking it all for myself. That was a great and then it echoes once you do it. Why don't you just have like a drop? Just upload a drop into the StreamYard.
It is. It's in the background music, but it doesn't work very well. The thing is, so I have a new sound. We're going like way over time talking about shit as we record, and I'm gonna keep it all in here. But like, I have a soundboardy type of thing here, and I got like, so I'm gonna start using stuff from there and calling up different sounds from that board instead of from StreamYard. Anyway, listen to Tag Talk. They're on Mondays at 3. Yes. Tim and Joel is undergoing some changes. We're Sundays at 8 p.m. now on Fightful Overbooked. And like I said, I have a new show in development, so keep it locked, keep it tuned. Coming to Overbooked as it is. And of course, we have Newsworthy here. We have Rob and Maggie on Fridays. There's a lot of stuff. There's FMC. I got to tell Jeremy and SP3 that their show is great. There you go.
You don't have to. I mean, thankful for Share Delaware that yes. That show is actually good.
She makes the show less lonely with farmersonly.com.
Yes. All right.
And I am at Joel Pearl, JOELPEARL. Ladies and gentlemen, friends beyond the binary. We'll probably see you in the next one. Cheers.